Since last summer, nearly 700,000 minority Rohingya Muslims have fled Myanmar to neighboring Bangladesh, escaping attacks, executions, and rape by government forces. The conditions for those who remain in the Buddhist majority country are hard to know because the Rohingya are isolated in areas where foreigners are mostly banned from traveling. New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof slipped around police checkpoints and into remote Rohingya villages in Myanmar to document their plight. In a recent column, he describes the situation as a slow-motion genocide, a massive humanitarian crisis that the rest of the world is all but ignoring. I spoke with Kristof at the New York Times offices yesterday to learn more. You called this a slow-motion genocide. How come?
So originally, I called this an ethnic cleansing, but when you go and talk to the survivors and you hear about babies being thrown into bonfires, or about young men and boys being systematically having their throats cut or being shot. And then when that violence has subsided, then to see people being systematically denied medical care, and in some areas systematically denied food, systematically denied humanitarian assistance, then I don't know what else to call that but genocide. This is a deliberate policy aimed to make the life of one ethnic group unlivable.
This is your fourth trip in 4 years. How have you seen it change?
Originally, there was a lot of fear that this might blow up. Well, then it did blow up. There was this rebel group that began to attack Burmese government installations, and the result was this scorched earth response. And I think that in Myanmar, the decision was we just can't accommodate the Rohingya anymore. We need to drive them out and get rid of them and solve this once and for all. The Rohingya are confined to their villages or to a big, huge concentration camp. And they're not allowed to leave the villages for education, for jobs, for medical care. In some extreme circumstances, they can get permission and an escort to a medical center, but it's difficult to get. And so women who are pregnant end up dying in childbirth, or they lose their babies, and the kids can't go to school. And this is just because they are Rohingya.
One of the people that you profiled in your column was a woman who had just given birth. Tell us about them.
This is a woman called Sonawara. She's 18 years old. This is her first pregnancy. She's carrying twins. It's a high-risk pregnancy. But because the Rohingya in this village are not allowed to leave to get medical care, there's a traditional birth attendant who tries to help her deliver. She delivers, and both babies die unnecessarily.
What's the role been of Aung San Suu Kyi?
Aung San Suu Kyi was one of my heroes, and to see her now become complicit in this genocide against the Rohingya is heartbreaking. I think in retrospect that we gave her too much credit for being in favor of human rights broadly of the Burmese people. In fact, I think she was something of a Burma nationalist all along. And I think also that she fundamentally became a politician. And one of the problems is that the old political split in Burma was between the military and democracy. That has changed, so now it's essentially about how much you hate Muslims. And so for any politician, there's a fear that if they are soft on the Rohingya, they will be hurt politically. I think that Suu Kyi sees that. She's an opportunist, and she is afraid of being perceived as friendly to the Rohingya, speaking up for them. And so she's now a part of this.
You also mentioned when it comes to hating specific groups that there are active disinformation campaigns there, and social media is being used to rile people up.
I think I and a lot of people thought that, internet comes to a country, social media, this frees people from the tyranny of government control of information. And it does, but Facebook brought with it these vicious anti-Muslim propaganda campaigns that where photos are shown purportedly of the Rohingya slaughtering Buddhists, and they are spread around, and they're used to create hatred and to foster a broad desire among many, many Burmese that they need to get rid of the Rohingya.
I know there have been attempts in the U.S. Congress to do something about it, but why the inaction right now?
I think part of the problem is that right now the Trump administration is not terribly interested in human rights around the world. It has its own focuses, and that we in the media, who normally would be highlighting these kinds of issues, we're now enormously distracted by President Trump himself. And there isn't really much of a business model in journalism for covering these kinds of stories. And without coverage, these kinds of crises persist.
Nick Kristof, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.